Hey race fans, it's Race Day Top 5 with me, Frank 5. When we think of Labor Day weekend, we think about the track too tough to tame. The Lady in Black itself. Darlington, small town, but hosts one of the most popular racetracks in the world. A traditional track hosting one of the crown jewel events. Everybody wants to have a chance to win a Southern 500 and add their name to the history of the sport by winning that historic race. And last night, we had quite a thriller when it came down to a pit stop and a throwback scheme dedicating to one of NASCAR's most popular drivers who never won a Southern 500. Well, a throwback scheme came on the deuce to go to Victory Circle. Number 1, Brad Keselowski, who has not won a race yet this year, and people have been wondering, what's wrong with the 2 car? They're down on speed. Are they even going to make it out of the round of 16 in the playoffs, knowing that they have a good points cushion? Well, all those questions were written off as he captured his first ever win of the season and his first ever Bojangles Southern 500 last night over his teammate Joey Logano, Kyle Larson, Kevin Harvick, and Chase Elliott. And Brad Keselowski had a pretty good car. I mean, not the dominant car. I mean, he was a top 5, top 10 for the majority of the night. I mean, he started inside the top 10 at the beginning of the race, fell back a little bit, then picked his way up and pretty much stayed in the top 5 the rest of the night. And I think, if, they made the right adjustments, they, were able to keep up with the racetrack and, get up there and have a shot for the win. And it all came down to the last pit stop of the night under a yellow caution flag with about 25 laps to go in the race. All the lead lap cars came up pit road, 11 of them. And Brad Keselowski edged out Kyle Larson off pit lane and was able to get a good restart on the last restart of the night and run away with the win. And pretty much like flat out, nobody could catch him when he got the lead. I mean, being the leader is a huge advantage of this race, especially considering the tire wears and everything. So it was a good night for the 2 team, and they really needed this. And now, with the stage wins that they earned earlier in the year, with the win last night, which was 5 bonus points, they now have 9 playoff points going into the playoffs, which is crucial for the 2 team, knowing that their circumstances were going to be a little bit tough if they didn't win before the playoffs. But this helps them a little bit going forward. So hopefully, now the 2 team is thrown into the equation of possibly going to Homestead for the second year in a row like he did last year. And I couldn't be happier for the 2 team. Obviously, my dad's a favorite. He loves the 2 cars, so I'm happy for Dad, and I'm happy that Rusty Wallace got to have his throwback scheme in Victory Circle, even though he wasn't the driver. He was in the broadcast booth for Motor Racing Network. Number 2, Kyle Larson. As much as I feel good for Keselowski, my heart goes out to Kyle Larson. He had the best car. He led almost 300 laps. He led 284 of the 367 laps that we ran last night. I mean, literally no one could catch him. He was just the best car. But like I mentioned, the last pit stop of the night, the 2 team got the better of the 42 team, who's been solid on pit road all night. I mean, it's like choking the Southern 500 is like choking away a Super Bowl. Think about the Atlanta Falcons choking the New England Patriots. And, but you can't really put too much blame on Kyle Larson. He did everything right last night. Just the pit crew just didn't do what they were supposed to do at the end, beat everybody else. But regardless, still was a good night for the 42 team. They picked up their first bonus points of the year by winning both stages 1 and 2. So I think the 42 team is getting better like they have been the last few weeks, but if they still want to win races and possibly go to the Homestead Final Four and make up for the one that got away last year when they blew a motor at Kansas, they've got to execute. They really have. Number 3, the Big 3. Really wasn't their night. Really wasn't their weekend at all. And lately, it's not really been the Big 3 dominating, with the exception of Michigan. I mean, 3 of the last 4 races, the Big 3 have only won 1 of them. And everything else has been somebody else, excluding the Big 3. Chase Elliott, obviously, Watkins Glen, Kurt Busch at Bristol, and then last night, Brad Keselowski. I mean, the highest the Big 3 were last night, the highest finisher was Kevin Harvick in 4th spot. I mean, Harvick kind of contended for the lead against Kyle Larson. Martin Truex Jr. did as well, but Truex, after coming to pit road, had a tire violation when the tire left the pits by the slimmest of margins, and they had to come back in and serve for pasture. They got back on the lead lap, but could only serve for 11th. And Kyle Busch really wasn't as strong as I thought he was going to be. I mean, Darlington, a track like this, is probably suited for Kyle Busch. He wasn't really a factor. I mean, best he could do was finish 7th in the race, but it wasn't really the night for the Big 3 at all. But, even with one race to go, you think about when we get to playoff time, they are going to shine. Number 4, the throwback paint schemes. Oh my gosh, there were so many that I just crave. Obviously, as much as people, including myself, can't stand Kyle Busch winning. I loved his Ernie Irvan Skittles throwback scheme. That was beautiful. But the other rainbow scheme topped that, with William Byron throwing it back to the other rainbow car. And spoiler alert, it's a 24, Jeff Gordon. It was a beautiful, beautiful paint scheme. I liked Kurt Busch's throwback scheme, dedicating it to the Sharpie car where he came so close in one of the closest finishes in NASCAR here at Darlington in 2003 with Ricky Craven. It was really fun. I really felt like Kurt Busch had a chance to make up for it, but unfortunately didn't. Denny Hamlin's throwback scheme, I kind of liked it, dedicated to himself when he first drove cars, and like his dad Dennis sponsoring with like Chesterfield on the side, purple and white FedEx, and everything was really beautiful. And Joey Logano's throwback scheme to Steve Park was pretty impressive too. I enjoyed that. And Austin Dillon, the 3 car, dedicating it to Dale Earnhardt's 1995 All-Star race when it was a silver and red car. That was pretty sick. And of course, the 43. You can't deny the 43. Bubba Wallace, Richard Petty, blue-red STP car was beautiful. The same for the Wood Brothers. They always have good throwback schemes too. And number 5. Commitment line violations. So many people. This is one of the toughest pit roads other than Atlanta and a Dover to get onto pit road. You got to come off the apron of the racetrack. There really isn't a lot of huge wide apron for everybody to go around. You're coming to pit road, and guys like went over the orange box and missed the commitment line. Particularly Jimmy Johnson had that happen to him. Matt Kenseth, Austin Dillon, Darrell Jr. A lot of guys had commitment line violations last night, which is it's happened before. But it's kind of people need to work on going down to pit road. That's why we have practice. You've got to maintain knowing when you're coming to pit road, and you got to warn, and you got to be sure where where to pull off. And last night, actually, the commitment, as far as the commitment line goes, there was one car, Ryan Newman, late in the race, which set up, the last pit stop of the race, the key moment to win the race, was trying to get to pit road. He really couldn't get it, and he got rammed by Clint Bowyer and Jeffrey Earnhardt, which thankfully they were all okay. Bowyer was a little steamed, though. But, a lot of these guys had trouble getting onto pit road last night and going over the orange box. It was a little bit sad to see. Finally, recap driver Chase Elliott. Solid 5th place finish in dedication to his late cousin Casey Elliott back in 1993 or 94. It was a really nice paint scheme. We had a really good race car. We started 11th, earned 1 point at the end of stage 1. Then we got up to the top 5, and we were really a top 5 car most of the night. People think, think about, I say this is the best Darlington race ever for his 4th race, but people are thinking, what about the 2016 when he drove the 24? He was in the top of it all night. Yeah, well, he didn't really get the finish he'd hoped for. Last night, he towards the end of the race, he struggled, but he was able to rebound for a 5th place finish, which I couldn't be happier. Shedding momentum at the right time going into the playoffs. So, next week is the playoffs. The last race to make the playoffs, let me remind you. And there are 2 spots up for grabs, held by Jimmy Johnson and Alex Bowman. If a new winner below 16th place wins, one of those 2 is going to be out of the playoffs. Think about Jimmy Johnson, a 7-time champion who, let me remind you, has not won a race this year. Couldn't miss the playoffs. If that happens, we've all stepped into the Matrix, where it's another dimension, another world where things aren't what they really seem to be. We are about to probably witness perhaps one of the greatest race car drivers not make the playoffs. Imagine that. I don't think it's going to happen, though, because I think the big 3 are going to shine next week, so we'll see what happens. So, up until then, I hope you all enjoy your lovely Labor Day today, and for that, I'll crack open a Pepsi, and cheers to you all. Don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like. Congrats to Brad Keselowski on breaking the winless streak, winning the Southern 500. Happy Labor Day, everybody. And I'll see you next week.